LkldNow In View with Andrea Oliver is produced in partnership with Florida Southern College and is sponsored by Bella Visage Medical and Aesthetic Rejuvenation. Thank you for supporting independent local journalism.
We all want it, but when it comes to great relationships, oftentimes it's more a dream than a reality. How do we go from relationship to amazing? That is what we're going to be talking about on this edition of LkldNow In View. Hi, I'm Andrea Oliver. So excited to be in this new arena. Beautiful setting here, provided by the studios at Florida Southern College. We are in collaboration with them this season, and sky's going to be the limit. Today, we're talking about relationships, as we say, and I'm going to put him on the spot. I have a gentleman I call a relationship guru that is in the studio with me. Now, most people know this man as a local pastor. I'm introducing my guest today. He is the founder and lead pastor at Free Life Chapel here in Lakeland, Florida. He's also the president of Excel Academy.
Yes.
A lover of Israel and the Jewish people, made several tours to Israel. But today, Pastor Scott, I think I'd like to take the privilege of calling you relationship guru. You've been married to your beautiful wife, Cindy, for what, 26 years?
26, and she has taught me everything about relationships.
Yeah, I am not even going to touch that, but it is so good to have you here.
It's an honor to be with you. Thank you for the opportunity.
So here's the deal, and I'm going to just go right there. Can we, in fact, make us feel good? Because some of us are wondering if this is even possible. Can we have great relationships?
Yeah, it is a big question. And it's interesting, Andrea, as you probably experienced in your life, I in mine, we have so many layers and lanes of relationships. And they all take work. I wish they came ready-made. I wish they were all just microwave oven opportunities, but they're not. And it takes the time, the investment, and overtime. And I think there's some key factors we can touch on today that will really helps to enhance them so that we start getting a return on investment. And I think that's the important thing about relationships.
The principle, I am sure, will work overall in most every relationship. There are probably some specifics to different areas. I mean, the relationship you have at work with your co-workers, your boss, employers, the relationship you have with siblings and other family members, and of course, that relationship, I think, that can make and break us, the one you have with the significant other.
Absolutely.
But with that said, you mentioned some key things that we can learn, or some principles.
Yes.
And so I suppose they would govern all of those. And what might some of those be?
I think the premise of relationships is the fact that I am choosing to give. So many, out of my mistakes, I'll go there. Early on in my, I would say, immaturity, not really understanding the fullness of how this all works, a lot of times we go into relationships seeing what I'm going to get out of it, what's in it for me. And although I understand an aspect of that, the truth is I have to decide which people, relationships, I'm going to invest my best into. Who can I enhance? Whose life can be better because my presence is here? How can my talents, abilities, opportunities, giftings serve another person? And I chose my wife 26 years ago that I wanted to invest heavily into her for a long-term period. Sometimes it's a friend. Different level of investment. Sometimes it's family, very different level of investment. But all relationships, quality relationships, let me put it this way, healthy relationships, deals with who am I going to invest in, because the moment I stop investing is the moment I damage the relationship.
Well, let's touch on this since you mentioned it.
Yes.
Healthy relationships, and then conversely, unhealthy relationships.
Yes.
Are we able to distinguish right off the bat, pretty much early on, which ones might and which ones might not be healthy?
In my estimation, no. I wish there was a ready way, I'll never be hurt in this relationship and I can just script it from the beginning. But until we get beyond the initial layers, we all present such a good look, don't we?
Yes,
we
do.
We put it out there and it's all running great until you meet that person before coffee. And, or you see them on a time when they got that text message that didn't go their way, and now you see another side that's not a part of that initial presentation. And learning, here's what I've discovered. Everybody's going to hurt you. Everybody's going to hurt you. You just have to find the ones that it's worth staying with through the pain.
You talk about work, and you talk about great relationships involving work.
Yes.
And a lot of times I think we don't necessarily measure the work because we are not sure what exactly to invest in. So I think it really is interesting that you tie those two together. Will the relationship that is worth investing in, the one that you've determined is going to fill your cup, so to speak, fill your soul, will that necessarily mean that it's going to be more work because you've decided to invest in it?
I believe it is, because the more I invest, the deeper the commitment. I am making myself more vulnerable to somebody the more I share my heart. I'm literally showing you aspects to myself that I don't show socially, but I'm going to place this in your hand, and I'm going to give you a little piece and see how you handle that. Will you protect it? Will you care for it? Will it be used against me later on? Will it be pulled out and say, see, you've always had this problem and it hits? Or will it be something that even in the heat of the moment, when it could be used against me, you decided to keep it put away because you're not going to damage that because I was vulnerably open showing you this? I think we begin to measure people in different seasons, and that's why relationships are not Insta relationships.
Yes.
We want everything Insta today, right? Instagram, we want everything just to shoot the text and it's done. But there's this thing of letter writing and then putting it in an envelope and then put a stamp on it and then mail it, and it shows up 3 weeks later. But it takes time.
Process.
It is.
So,
Yes.
so pretty much, and I don't know if this is age as it is stage, pretty much you're not going to get it off the bat just by starting being in communion, let's use that word, or relationship with someone.
Sure.
No matter what the age.
Andrea, without conflict, someone's not being honest. Conflict is proof that I'm exposing and being real with my feelings, my perspectives, my past is playing all into this. It took my wife a few years to discover more of what my past had conditioned me for. I respond to my wife based on things I learned from the past. And so it takes a minute and different scenarios to walk that out. But once we begin to experience that and begin to hear each other in those moments, and we begin to flex with each other as we learn over time, then we begin to discover more what that's like. But pain is coming. We just have to determine, I'm going to keep investing in these. And as long as the pain is not the intentional, there is a place. We have boundaries that I can determine. I won't stay in the unhealthy aspect of the relationship. There's going to be pain as long as we're learning each other, moving together. There's progress, discovery. But the moment that it goes into intentional, and these things are now used as weapons against me, then that's a place that I begin to back up.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but I want to go back to the aspect of vulnerability. I heard somebody say once that if you're unwilling to be vulnerable, or show me a person unwilling to be vulnerable, and you have just shown me an unhappy person. I think you kind of sort of went into there because you're saying that you're not being real, you're not showing exactly who you are. So if you are not showing exactly who you are to an individual, how can you have a real and healthy relationship?
They don't know who they're relating to. There is something about putting the cards on the table, and especially to the degree of the commitment that we are placing on this. If we're going to do this forever, then I need to know all the pieces of this commitment that I am making. And without hearing that, I don't, years ago, Julia Roberts had a movie that came out, and based on the man that she was dating, that's how she ate her eggs. So when she was with the man, however he ordered his eggs, that's how she ordered hers. Until a man came into her life and he said, how do you want your eggs? And she didn't know how to answer.
No clue.
Exactly. And so we need to find out how each other likes our eggs. We need to discover, you want yours scrambled, I want mine over easy, and I'm good with scrambled. That's just fine.
Yes.
You be you. That's exactly right.
It is important to bring your real self. But what if you are in the process of finding out who that is? What, you know, we dated in college.
Yes.
We've had relationships that started when we were young, and sometimes we're not entirely sure. How do you stay true to that process of finding out who you are and the idea of having a real
Yeah,
relationship?
great question, great question. And I think this is where a lot of long-term relationships begin to hit sticking points. The moment I quit growing as a person, the relationship stalemates. I have to change. The responsibility of my marriage is on me. And from my wife's side of things, the responsibility is on her. Because my wife can only relate with the man that I present her. And so as I change, as life changes, as she changes, as life changes, we are continually relating with different aspects of that person as we grow through different stages. We're different people as parents than we were as singles.
Yes.
And now that our son is out of the house, it's a whole new season.
And so, married.
Yes, yeah, exactly. I don't know when that happened, right? But I think it's important that when I come into the relationship, Andrea, I have to decide that we talk about this thing called IQ, intelligent quotient, and it's fine, it's good. But I'm really concerned today about people's relational quotient, emotional quotient, that until we bring all those levels up, we're going to continue to have relationships that are sideways. And here's the challenge. A lot of homes today, we're not seeing the examples as to what these commitments and these communication levels are, these values, how to move through these, how to communicate in tough and hard times. And I think we're seeing a lot of that play out today, especially with what we went through just last year.
I was going to bring that up. We found out that safer at home was not always so.
Boy, that's the truth.
I tell you, this past year, we found out and heard a lot of families struggling because they had to quarantine with each other.
Yes.
And they found out, I don't like you.
Right.
I don't want to be here with you.
Right.
When you find yourself in those tough moments and do you throw in the towel, or is it a call to dig deeper and do a little bit more work?
Yeah. You know, I will set the preface with this and come into that. With everything going on with technology today, it has hamstrung us to the point that last year, being locked in homes together, it was the expansion of the real challenges that were underlying. In other words, we didn't know, we've lost the ability to communicate face to face, eye to eye, heart to heart. It's easier to send digits to somebody or letters to somebody and let them figure out what the emotion was behind it when we're really not connecting. There's a lot of studies going on today. Psychology of Pop Media has a magazine. They come out and they stated that 70% of relationships today are taking severe damage because we're in this technology. So, to your point, bring all that home. Now I've got to see you face to face instead of
every day.
Over and over. I think we have to begin to do relationships intentionally. Where we can come together, have some moments, and then we bounce and walk. Now we're kind of being kept together, corralled, so to speak. There's some things we have to do intentionally to make sure that we're walking through this difficult time, knowing it is a temporary season, but temporary for a year has been a long temporary as we're getting there, and we're seeing it play out domestically and all of those things, that the challenges inside of homes. But we have to go intentional with those relationships, fun, making sure the investments are there. I have decided this will be a great day in my relationship. I pre-decided it. I didn't need to hear what your opinion about the day was. I have decided it's going to be great. I'm investing. Let's have fun. Let's smile. Let's work it out. It's not utopian, Andrea.
I was just about to ask, because you know the critics are going to say you're living in this glass ceiling.
Right. And you know what? If you want to continue to use something as an excuse, you can, and then use the excuse as an alibi to have a busted marriage. Or we can either dial it up and say, I said till death do us part. That means since there's not an option of stepping out of this, I need to dig in and something's got to change. And I don't control my wife, but I do control me. I've got to deal with me. So back to my relational quotient. You see, here's what I found. Emotions are nothing more than chemicals. Emotions are chemicals firing off in our body, and based when I like something, dopamine is released. All 3 different chemicals run through and deal with our emotional setup. So I have to realize that the emotion I'm experiencing right now is because a chemical was released. I do not want to live drug addicted and run my marriage off of a drug. It will change. There'll be a shift and a move, and so we can't make radical shifts and changes off of the drug I'm on right now, because it will change
It
in
will
a minute.
change.
So we have to move. We have to fluidly go through and be careful of those words that I say when I'm on this drug as opposed to when it's going to shift and it'll be a different world in 15
In
minutes.
other words, don't let your emotions control how you navigate your relationship.
Yes,
Let me ask you this,
absolutely.
and we're just about at the wire here, but let me ask you this. You've heard it said 50-50, and I've actually heard 100-100.
Right.
When we come to relationships, how should we do so?
Yeah.
Is it going to be 50-50 or is it going to be 100-100?
Yeah, it's about 101, 101. I do believe, because I know my wife has had to have so much grace on me. She probably had to go above and beyond to allow to navigate me, because we do have down days. We do have tough days. We do things inadvertently that hurts each other. But Andrea, back to these relationships, friendships, with our kids, we're going to have to extend grace.
Yes.
And this goes back to a relational quotient that I realize I'm going to be off, you're going to be off. I'm going to cover you while you're acting a fool for just a second. And it's going to be off, and I'm going to condemn you.
Is it okay to act the fool for just a second?
You know, as long as it's not a repetitive thing and all of a sudden it becomes the thing, I couldn't help myself. No, eventually you got to grow up and own responsibility for what you've said. And that's something that I have experienced in our home. Thank goodness that my wife and I have come to the place that when we know we've acted like children, we'll come back. Sometimes it's a day later. Look, I am really sorry for yesterday. That was ridiculous. I shouldn't have gone there. And there's something about knowing that people are aware of that they need to repent, that it gives you more grace for the next time and the next time. So we start building layers of increase, layers of grace that we give each other instead of running on raw nerves every day of our life.
26 years in this thing, I think you can speak to it. What do you think the next 26 years will look like?
You know what? We are enjoying marriage right now like we have never enjoyed it before.
Wow.
We really are.
Give us hope.
Well,
Yes.
I am loving it. We understand each other like we've never understood each other. We do this thing now called randomizing. We will find something we've never done and go try it, and let's experience it together. And so you get one ice cream cone and you fight over who's going to get it. And so you have to interject playfulness. We get way too mature. We get way too serious in our relationships. It's the fun, it's the surprises, it's the added thought when she wasn't there that continues to keep things stirred. And it's like, what's next week going to be like? You never know. Keep laughter going in the house. If someone didn't accidentally spill the milk, then intentionally spill the milk. But do something to break it up. Let's put some joy in the place.
Let's put some joy in the place.
That's
It
right.
has been such a joy, actually, to have you here.
Thank you.
talking on this all-important topic.
It is.
And just, continue doing what you do. You seem to have the formula, if there is one, for making this thing work.
Okay.
And it has been so good to be back doing what we love here at LkldNow.com and LkldNow In View. I'm Andrea Oliver. Thank you for joining us.
Lakeland Now in View with Andrea Oliver is produced in partnership with Florida Southern College and is sponsored by Bella Visage Medical and Aesthetic Rejuvenation. Thank you for supporting independent local journalism.